Excellent. Good morning, everyone. This is the convening of the Mass Gaming Commission. We've already had an agenda setting meeting, so we started early today. Thank you, everyone. We're holding this meeting virtually, so good morning again, Commissioner O'Brien.
Good morning again. I'm here.
Good morning, Commissioner Hill.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning again, Commissioner Skinner.
Good morning.
And good morning again, Commissioner Maynard.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. We're going to turn to our agenda. Today is Wednesday, June 21st, and it is the longest day of the year. Take advantage of that sun. And so happy summer, everyone. It is public meeting number 461, and the team has allowed me to take the agenda slightly out of order. Have outside counsel here and just accommodating the schedule. So I'm turning to item number, I guess it's now number 3 on our agenda, item number 8. We've had some changes because we did complete what we were able to do with respect to our review of the Raynham Park application. I appreciate everybody's good work on that. So I'm turning to Commissioner's update. I first want to say that, again, we are acknowledging that our executive director will be departing effective July 14th. So we have some work to do to fill big shoes, but we want to make sure to get our process underway. And the first step will be that we want to look at the existing job description. So I've asked David Muldrew, our Chief People and Diversity Officer, to pull that. And I thought, and thank you, Commissioner O'Brien, for your thoughts today at the agenda setting meeting, that we would review it on the 29th. And then unless we needed another date, depending on, I want to make sure all the commissioners will be available on the 11th, we would vote on the job description. Then we would use that as we pursue the hiring process for a permanent executive director. However, that process will take some time, and so we will be looking to appoint an interim executive director. And I've decided, based on intensive conversations with outside counsel, in order to meet really the rigorous and stringent components of the open meeting law, that we would set up a screening committee for the appointment of an interim executive director. And I have asked individuals to join me in that effort. And I thank you in advance for your graciousness. David Muldrew, our Chief People and Diversity Officer, will assist, as will Commissioner Skinner. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. We will be, again, in accordance with the open meeting law requirements, will be considering those of the Gaming Commission team who have graciously expressed a willingness to take on the responsibilities of interim executive director. We will plan a meeting and post it in accordance with the open meeting law requirements, and then we'll be reporting back to the commission as soon as we have updates for you on our progress. And Attorney Mackey has agreed to assist, or one of his colleagues from NK has agreed to assist along the way in order to make sure that we meet the demands of open meeting law and other requirements, and of course engage in best practices. Okay.
So, Madam Chair, if I could comment, I really would have loved for us to have an open conversation about process before this was announced at a public meeting. I respect that this is how apparently we're going to go forward on the interim, but I would like to have conversations about the 5 of us deciding how we're going to do things like this, rather than being announced in the manner that it just was. So particularly going forward for the posting and the actual search, I would hope we have an open discussion amongst the 5 of us about how that's going to proceed.
Absolutely.
I don't know how the other two feel that have not been part of that interim conversation.
As you know, Commissioner, it's a bit of a challenge in terms of open meeting law. And of course, I also did receive the guidance of our legal counsel on the process. And so this is how we'll go forward.
Attorney Mackey, maybe I'll speak with you after then.
Okay, I'm available.
Thank you.
And if you want to ask any questions now, too, you may, Commissioner O'Brien.
I just would have preferred that the process be discussed in public amongst the five of us prior to it being announced in the manner in which it just was. That's all. And I would expect, having voiced that now, that the process for the ultimate full-time filling will be done in just that manner.
Well, we're starting right on, as you requested with respect to the job description. We've got that going. We'll start next week. The interim will be, started in the way that I just suggested. Thank you.
And that's the process that in the future I would like discussed amongst the five of us. Just for the record.
Yeah, and I'm Commissioner O'Brien. Thank you very much.
Commissioner O'Brien, just a quick response. I want you to understand that there has been no discussion about this interim process at all, but that involved me beyond the request from the chair to serve on the search committee.
Right.
I believe 100% in transparency. And so it is my intention, as we move forward in this process, to keep you all informed as best I can. But then as we're discussing the permanent ED, it is really important that the five of us come together to make a decision, not only on process, but absolutely on a final candidate. And I believe that that is the intention of the chair as well.
Right. I don't have an issue at all with how this is going forward, Commissioner Skinner. It is the fact that the chair on her own selected to go this way without consultation with the full five. That's my issue. I voiced it. I'm pretty confident that going forward in terms of the substantive replacement, that it'll be handled appropriately. I don't have an issue at all with going forward.
And I appreciate your perspective, Commissioner O'Brien. But I would say that what I announced today was very appropriate under the statute and in terms of meeting the demands of the community. It's just a process that we know.
No, and we can obviously agree to disagree on that. I don't want to belabor the point. I think that going forward, we'll all be on the same page.
Commissioner, maybe turn up your audio.
I just wanted to weigh in here. I respect the authority of the chair to appoint all sorts of subcommittees. I would say that, as Commissioner Bryan just stated, I am hopeful that as we do the permanent search, that, and I'm really saying this for Dave as much as anyone else, that we can use every tool in our disposal to ensure that all five of us have an equal voice. I mean, at the end of the day, this is someone who reports to all five of us. And it's someone that we are going to have to work with. And so I'm hoping that we can use every tool at our disposal when looking at the open meeting law to not pervert it in a way or read it too strictly in a way that we can't have candid conversations to make sure that we get the best person in this position.
Understood.
Attorney Mackey, is there anything that you want to offer?
No, I don't think so. And I am happy, Commissioner O'Brien and others, to have a conversation about this. Obviously, a one-on-one conversation in compliance with the open meeting law, but I'm happy to do that.
Commissioner Hill, are you all set?
I'm all set at this time. I feel comfortable moving forward. We'll all be included, but I too, I feel comfortable moving forward, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, and the process will, again, we'll be able to give more updates as we move along on the interim hire. And then I can just say a big thank you to those members of the team who have graciously offered to step in at this time. It's a big job, and You know, we are very fortunate that we have members of the team who have expressed that willingness. So again, a thank you to them. And again, I'm very sorry that the process is restrictive. For those of you who know me well, I really thrive on collaboration and I thrive on us working together. This is just a construct that I'm kind of put in right now. So thank you, and thank you for your patience. All right, let's move on then to the Community Affairs Division. Good morning, Joe.
Morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So today we are taking up the one application that had not been decided upon earlier, which is the City of Springfield's project of regional significance, which is for the construction of a parking garage across the street from MGM Springfield. In our initial meeting on this, I've attached the original memo that we put together, and initially the review team did not recommend funding for the project for a couple of reasons. One, because the review team did not consider it regionally significant, and secondly, because our intent was to only award one grant to the Region B in this category. So since the last meeting, I did re-poll the review team to see if there were any changes in opinions on the project. And the review team still does continue to see this primarily as a local project and does not believe it to be regionally significant. Now, look, that's not to say that this is not a good project. It is a good project. It's just that the review team didn't feel that it sort of passed that bar to be, considered regionally significant, which is, and I think that's the key word, is regionally significant. That's, right in the title of the category. So we did look at the commission at the last meeting asked us if we had looked at other avenues for funding, which we had not at that point. So we did look at the transportation construction grant, which is another grant that's available for construction projects. The review team certainly thinks that this project would fit better under that category, since it certainly is transportation related. And we've already agreed that this would address a casino related impact. The problem with the transportation construction grant is that the parameters of that grant don't coincide with the request from the city. The maximum grant in that category is 1.5 million, and the project needs to be under contract by June 30th of next year. This application requested $3 million, which is the cap for the projects of regional significance, and also asked for a start date of June 30th, 2025, which again is what's identified in the projects of regional significance. So if the commission did want to provide funding for this project under the transportation construction grant, it would require waivers to do so of the dollar value and of the timing of the project. And then lastly, since all of the other grants have been voted at this point, we were able to tally up the total amount of money that's been committed to Region B. And as of now, that total is $4,061,200. And our guidelines established a maximum total grant for Region B of $7 million. So we wouldn't have quite enough money available in Region B to award a full $3 million to this project. We would be that sort of $61,200 short of that amount. So with that, I guess I will open it up to questions, comments, and so on.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
So as somebody who sat with the team over the last few months to go over these applications, I'm going to stand by our decision not to fund this through the regional application that was put forth. I had thought about this the last time we met, and I was going to suggest that we take a look at the construction grant instead of the grant that was, the application that was put before us. And under the scenarios that Joe has put forth, and I just want to make sure I have them up, so bear with me, please. I would suggest to the committee that we move this application over into the construction, that we would fund them at 1.5 million, and that we would look to allowing the date to be moved to 2025, which would allow them to come back before us next year for the other 1.5 million, which would total the 3 million. And I think that would get us to where we need to be. I think it sets the tone that we do support this project, just not under the application that was put forth this year. So my feeling would be we move it to construction, we fund it at 1.5 million, we let them go to 2025 for construction, and they come back next year for the other 1.5 million. That's what I would suggest to my fellow commissioners.
And if I can just add on to that, Commissioner Hill, that our guidelines do say that applicants can apply for money on a particular project in a future year. Of course, obviously, that's subject to the availability of funds in that year. As we saw back in 2020, we know that our source of funds it could possibly not be reliable. As we saw, when the casinos had to close down for a few months, we weren't generating money into that fund. But so I think that stipulation, they're certainly eligible to come in and request that additional money in a later.
And Madam Chair, if I could just add for those, to add what Joe just said, we took a look at this project, and I think we all agree that it really is transportation related. And we believe that, a parking garage would qualify for that under the scenario that I outlined. We looked at the project being related, an impact to the casino. And I think the committee all agreed that this would absolutely address a casino impact. Joe talked about the maximum amount of that particular grant being 1/3 of the total project cost, up to a maximum of 1.5 million. So the project would meet the 3rd requirement, but would need a waiver. If we did award the 3 million, I'm not suggesting that we do that. And, the project under the current rules would have to be under construction by June 30th of 2024. I am proposing that we allow it to go to June 30th, 25. So we would need a time waiver for that to happen. And I think, again, that brings us to where we would need to be financially and setting the tone that we do agree with this project moving forward.
Commissioner Skinner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support what Commissioner Hill has just proposed. My only question was related to the timeline, the time frame here, the June 30th dates, 2024, 2025, and whether we should be considering this for funding for next year. But Chief Delaney has responded to that question without even knowing that I had it. So I'm satisfied with that answer. And so I think this is an excellent project. I, like Commissioner Hill, don't think we should be revisiting the original determination that the project is not one of regional significance, but I think we can get to funding the project in a way that I'm comfortable with by designating the project under the transportation grant option.
Commissioner Maynard, Commissioner O'Brien, want to weigh in?
I think that what Commissioner Hill proposed makes sense. I mean, I think, Madam Chair, you did a recitation of the perspective when you go back further in time in terms of the parking garage and the regional impact and all of that in terms of the importance of the project. And I think what Joe described and what Commissioner Hill described in terms of what's in the money, what's the import, what's the nexus, what's the purpose, I think it hits the right balance in terms of giving the funding where it should go in a manner that's consistent with the grant structures that we've set up. So I'm for it.
Thank you. Commissioner Maynard?
So I have, I guess, one more question. I was jotting down the notes, Joe, quickly. How much money is left in that region today?
2,938,800.
I mean, I look at it this way. First of all, I support some funding of this project. I think it's a fantastic project. I think that Springfield's really going to benefit from it. I think how we get to that end goal is, I'm thinking about the end user here, right? The people that live in that area. They really don't care what bucket it comes out of, as long as it comes out of a bucket and it's being used, right? That's a lot of what we think about as public servants. So, I would like to see it funded. I appreciate Commissioner Hill's perspective. I guess I would say if there's money left in the pot, I would be more likely to get closer to the number they asked for, but I hear a consensus here and I'm able to support that consensus.
So yeah, Commissioner Maynard, I think it's just, again, just to go over the 1.5 million would require an additional waiver from the guidelines.
If we were to approve it fully under the regionalization, that would require a waiver as well. We had agreed to that.
Yeah, I guess, I think the term waiver is maybe not appropriate in that case. If it was under the regional significance, you're just awarding, it was a target of one per region. I mean, the commission can award more than one per region. I wouldn't say that's technically sort of like a waiver. In this case, it's a waiver of a hard guideline that says you can't have more than 1.5 million and it has to be done by a certain date.
Oh, thank you, because I was just looking at the draft motions and wondered why a waiver wasn't attached to that one. Okay, so that's, but so in terms of right now, what Commissioner Hill is offering would not require a waiver as to the amount, but would require a waiver of the timeline?
Yes.
Correct.
And if I want, just for clarification, I think Commissioner Skinner, this is what you were asking, so forgive me if I'm repeating, but should the project go more timely or faster than what we may anticipate, if they needed funding that exceeded the 1.5, they could come back to us before the next deadline? Oh, I see Mary going no. We can't.
Well, I think, Chair, the the schedule that they provided to us had this project going out to bid, in June of 2025. So, there is, I would say there is, well, it's a less than zero chance, but not much less than zero chance that this project would be ready to go before our next funding cycle. I mean, we're talking 6 months from now, right? When our next 2024 grant round starts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd say there's zero chance that this project would be ready to go in a year from right now. That's why we would recommend a waiver, because it simply doesn't even fit within their own timeline. This project hasn't been designed yet.
And so to your point earlier, the idea in granting the 1.5 million for this cycle is to, ensure that there are funds available in the total amount of 3 million over the 2 cycles this year and next year.
That's right. That's right. So there would be, there would be some money that would then roll over from this year into next year, and then there will be the allotment from next year, which would mean there should be sufficient funding for that second tranche of 1.5 million should they come into that. And I think the other thing is, that part of this project of regional significance is that, it does give a bit longer timeline, knowing that all of the sources of funding may not have been put in place yet. This would give them some certainty, I think, when trying to secure some of the other sources of funding, saying that, well, we've got, a commitment from the Gaming Commission for the first $1.5 million, and we think we have a real good chance at the second $1.5 million, based on, availability of funds.
And Joe, the total cost of the project is how much?
30 million.
And I know in some of the other grants that we've approved, we placed conditions on those funds along the lines of must demonstrate commitment of funding from other sources. Is that not applicable here? Are you?
Well, it would go without saying. They can't go out to bid on the project unless they've got their sources of funding in place. You simply can't award a contract unless all of the sources of funding are in place. And what would be required for us is all in our grant instrument, we outline what the requirements are for both transportation, construction, and for projects of regional significance. And they have to submit to us their bid documents and their contracts and so on and so forth. So we feel pretty comfortable that we have that covered within the grant instrument itself.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I do want to note that we received, letters from the mayor of Springfield, Mayor Sarno, and also they noted that PVPC as the recipient of the regionalization grant has supported this. I think I led with the idea that I do view this project as regionally significant. I feel that the revitalization underway in Springfield has profound impact on the region. And so every endeavor that we can do to support that is critical to what I imagine was the legislative intent and vision of the Governor Patrick at the time signed 23K into law. So, and I just wanted to extend my appreciation for their submission, and then also MGM Springfield, of course, followed yesterday. So we appreciate their support of this effort. I'm absolutely aligned and grateful for Commissioner Hill and your leadership in this effort, and kind to go along with your recommendation. And I'm completely relying on Joe's timeline of 0% chance or minus 0%. Sounds like my native Vermont temperatures, but I'm just going to go along with this and say that I support the funding and get the funding underway. And as Commissioner Bryan alluded, it does, it's consistent with our past grants. And I think we'd be remiss not to keep going. So that's
just one other thing I'd like to add in, Madam Chair, is that this is consistent with other grants that we have done. There was one that we did for Revere and Saugus a couple of years ago where we gave them a waiver from the timeline because it's a project on Route 1, and we knew that it would be probably more time consuming than taking just a year to get it done. So we did that in that case where we gave them 2 years. So this is very much consistent with our past practice.
Commissioners, any other questions other than to thank Lily and Mary and Joe? Comments? Commissioner Hill.
First of all, I want to thank you for your kind words about my leadership, but please know that it was the team of Joe, Mary, and Lily, and the whole team that went back after hearing the commissioner's comments to see how we could make this work in a way that would appease everyone. So it's their leadership, not mine, that got us to where we are today. And with that said, I do have a motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill, I was noting your leadership at this very moment today, so thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'll take that motion.
Okay, so with respect to the application from the City of Springfield for funding from the Community Mitigation Fund, I move that the commission waive the requirement for transportation construction grants as included in the 2023 Community Mitigation Fund guidelines, requiring that applicants demonstrate that the project will begin construction no later than June 30th, 2024, and that the commission extend the deadline until June 30th, 2025. And further, that the commission approve the application in the amount of 1.5 million as a transportation construction grant for the purposes described in the submitted application and for the reasons discussed here today, and that the commission staff be authorized to execute a grant instrument commemorating this award in accordance with 205 CMR 153.04.
Second.
Any further comments? Very helpful. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maynard.
Aye.
I vote yes. And again, thank you to the leadership out of Springfield for following up with your submissions. Appreciate it. Okay. I believe that concludes our meeting for today. Anything else, commissioners, that we need to tackle? And I just need a motion to adjourn, and I hope everybody has a good first day of summer.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Skinner. I don't know, just that Commissioner Maynard can wait, I couldn't tell. Somebody will record that for us. Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
Aye.
Commissioner Maynard,
Aye.
and I vote yes. 5-0. Thank you. And thank you, Joe.
Thank
very
you.
much.